All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to pass it to my co-host, Quentin, to kick us off.
Welcome, everybody. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join this call tonight. It's an issue that is near and dear to our hearts here at the Center for Biological Diversity. My name is Quentin Mecke. I am the organizing director at Ignite Change. For those of you who are not familiar, Ignite Change is the Center for Biological Diversity's grassroots activist network. We are the organizing wing of the Center for Biological Diversity, and we're dedicated to defending wildlife, wild lands, wild places, basically life on Earth in all of its diversity. When we, at our core, we believe in a life-centered world where governments and people have respect for wildlife and wildlands, clean air and water, and really support and protect the planet's rich biodiversity in all its glory. So as you can imagine, we're in challenging times these days with this current administration. We work, as I mentioned there, on a variety of issues from offshore drilling to endangered species. And right now, tonight, this call is about working to protect our beloved wolves from the Trump administration's plan to strip their protections under the Endangered Species Act. Specifically tonight, I also want to give a shout out to our partners that we're working closely with tonight, which are Howling for Wolves and the Endangered Species Coalition. So they are part of this campaign as well. It's a very exciting opportunity to launch that with them. And with now, I'm going to pass it back to one of my colleagues and co-host, Diane, who's going to run everyone through a couple of tech tips for tonight to make sure the call goes smoothly for you.
Hang on, are you all hearing Diane? Nope, Diane, your sound appears not to be working. All right, one sec. I can jump in on the tech stuff. Let me just help Diane out. Okay, so just on the tech, so a few notes. I've mentioned the chat box. And if you haven't seen it, just go to the bottom of your screen. It'll pop up and you can introduce yourself. And a lot of people have. It's really cool just to scroll through the chat and see all these people from all over the country pumped up and ready and here to protect wolves. So check out the chat box. There's also a Q&A button at the bottom. So same, this is on your screen. If you dialed in, you won't have this option. So just FYI, but no worries, you can get everything out of the call anyway. But if you're on the Zoom app, the Q&A button will, that will allow you to submit a question. And when we get to the end of our session, do question and answer, we'll be taking most of the questions from that there. Things often get lost in the chat. So if you do have a question, make sure to ask it through the little Q&A button right there. What else? So there are a couple moments where we'll ask you to raise your hand and share or ask a question. So to do this, you just click participants at the bottom of the screen and then click raise hand, so like hand icon. And yeah, for the most part, we'll be communicating through the chat and the Q&A, so definitely direct things there. And I think that's about it on tech. So with that, I will introduce myself. I am Valerie Love. I'm the Deputy Organizing Director with Ignite Change, and I've been working with the Center for Biological Diversity for the last 5.5 years, really just organizing and building people power to protect this beautiful planet. And I also have an almost 2-year-old daughter, and I love her more than anything, and I want her to inherit a world where the wild is still alive. So with that, I'll kick it over to Amaru, who is here. She's our wolf expert. She's been working on protecting wolves You can hear she has two nearly wolves with her right now. But she's been working to protect wolves for the last 21 years. Amaruk?
Yeah, hi, I'm Amaruk. I work for the Center as their West Coast Wolf Advocate. I've been working in wolf advocacy for the last 21 years for a number of organizations. I've been with the Center for 6 years, starting my 7th year with them now, just here in January. I focus on wolf protections in Washington, Oregon, and California, but also at the federal level. And I do work with our other staff that work on wolf regional issues in other places like the Northern Rockies, Western Great Lakes, and the Southwest. And I'm here to be with you because you are fellow wolf advocates and you share our passion. So great to spend this next hour with all of you. Thanks for being here. And if Diane's sound is working, does she want to introduce herself?
Let's test this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Hey, Diane.
Awesome. I have no idea what happened, but I'm glad it's working now. I'm Diane. I am a distributed organizer on the Ignite Change team. I am in Asheville, North Carolina, and my job is basically to support volunteers like you as you take action in your communities. Great to be here.
Awesome. And as Quentin said, we're thrilled to be working with partners on this. We are working with Howling for Wolves, as well as the Endangered Species Coalition, and we're inviting more in now. But we do have Devin, who's on the line. He's with Howling for Wolves, and I want to give him a chance to introduce himself and just say a few words about how they're partnering with us on this campaign.
All right, can everyone hear me? You good?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Like you said, my name is Devin Boker. I'm the projects manager for Howling for Wolves. Howling for Wolves, we're a Minnesota-based wolf advocacy organization. I'll keep it brief, but we started in 2012 as a response to the 3 consecutive years of hunts here in the state when wolves were originally removed. And we focus a lot on public outreach, on education, on fostering tolerance, and of course, one of our biggest things is opposing recreational wolf hunts. One thing that we do here at Howling for Wolves is we have these groups called wolf packs, or packtivists, or wolf packs, so all around the state. And as we are coming into this process here, we are using those groups. They're just groups of regular people who feel the need to stand up for wolves, to come together. And we have Duluth, Brainerd, Thief River Falls, Grand Rapids, St. Cloud, and a couple other locations in the works. But we're already gathering public comments. We have a few events already planned and scheduled out for Wild for Wolves Day on March 5th that you're going to hear more about later. But just the last thing I'll say is details for those. We are going to have on our website, which is howlingforwolves.org, also on all of our social media. And we have another website that's basically focused for advocacy resources, and that's going to be liveandlethowl.org.
Right on. Thank you so much, Devin. Thanks for all your good work. All right, so we actually want to take a few minutes and hear from you. So we want to know where you're calling in from and just a couple words about why you're inspired to take action to protect wolves. So you can start in the chat box if you'd like. Please share where you're calling in from and why you want to take action to protect wolves. And I also will call on just a few people to share, like maybe 2 or 3 people. So if you would like to share just a minute top, so really succinctly why you want to protect wolves. I can go first. I want to protect wolves because they're incredible, beautiful, these magnificent, loving creatures. They're symbols of the wild, and they also make everything around them healthier. They give back to nature. And so they're also a symbol of the profound interconnectedness of our environment. And I know that 2019 could really be a crossroads in decades worth of recovery that has happened. So I know it's critical now. So again, if you would like to raise your hand, how you do that is, I think it's you press the participants button and then the raise your hand button. Looks like we have a couple folks with raised hands. Okay, here we go. Rosalinda, you are unmuted.
There.
There we go. Hi, we can hear you.
Hi. I have a question regarding the Endangered Species Act is very much on people's minds, and they're very much for protecting, keeping it. Though a lot of Western states say that it's become obsolete, that it's no longer relevant because then the species has obtained its amount of considered viable. How does Center for Biological Diversity feel about that?
So I'll tackle that. This is Amaru. So Rosalinda, we're going to have a chance later on to be able to do some question and answer. And so what we would like from you right now is to hear why you want to protect wolves, but I'm going to answer your question really quickly right now. Okay. And that is this: 99% of the species that have been protected under the Endangered Species Act have not gone extinct. That's the whole point of protecting them. So if anybody tells you it's failing, oh no, where in life do you have a 99% success rate of keeping something from happening that you didn't want to have happening? It's a roaring success. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm very much for it. It's just that certain states, you know, Wyoming and Idaho, have become very anti the Endangered Species Act.
Yeah, and we'll talk about more of that through the rest of our program and while you're participating in this. But for right now, just in one sentence, tell us why you want to be here to protect wolves.
Well, I saw wolves up in Alaska. I was in Dutch Harbor. Yeah, I lived in Kodiak, Alaska, and I saw how wolves in Dutch Harbor were treated, and I just fell in love with wolves there.
Nice.
Easy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rosalinda.
Thank
you. Okay, so next let's go to Erin Kate Howard. You're unmuted. Or are you? Hang on, you are now.
This is actually, excuse me, this is actually my daughter, Prophet Alu, and she's 12, and I'm here with her, and she's going to talk. This is her.
Hello.
Hey.
My name, well, never mind. I don't really have to say it. Sorry. The reason I'm here today is because wolves have always been something that were in the back of my mind when I was really little, and over the last couple of years I have grown more and more of an interest in them. And I remember the day Mom told me that something was happening that was going to affect them and possibly even wipe them out. I remember I sat up in bed for 20 minutes and cried. As I put in the chat a few minutes earlier, they have always been or not always, but have recently been a huge inspiration in my art. And I usually put myself in the experience, any bad experiences that I have in my mind, that after they happen, I sit by myself and I think what possibly I would do if I was braver, or what I could have done in the situation. I put my friend groups into the term that they are a pack that I stick with and that I protect, and they protect me. And I was really excited to be on this call because over the last couple of months, mostly the thing that has consumed my mind was saving these beautiful animals that keep the balance.
Nice. Thank you. That's beautiful. I love that. And I love the piece about accessing our courage to really think of, what if we were braver, right? If we were our most courageous, best selves, what would we do to protect these magnificent animals? So I want you to remember that as we get into it and talk about what you can do and how you might step out of your comfort zone a little bit to take the action that is really critical for the well-being of these beautiful creatures and our environment as a whole. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Quentin. He's going to go over what the rest of this call is going to look like.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. So on tonight's call, we have a couple of goals for you for this call to be a success. One, we want to make sure that we talk about our campaign and how we're gearing up to resist Trump's attack on wolves. We want to share some of our strategies that we're going to use to secure long-term survival and recovery for wolves, and specifically talk about what you can do to get involved to protect wolves, including going over our upcoming Wild for Wolves Day that's happening on March 5th. The key part about this call is really getting you, one, to understand the issue and taking that step to get involved. This campaign does not happen without your involvement. So this is the first of what we hope are many actions that you take to not only help the wolves, but also the planet, because they need each of you to do it. At the end of the call, we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A. It's always a good interactive session to answer any questions you might have about the campaign. And for those of you keeping track of this, we estimate in general these calls tend to go about 45 minutes to an hour, depending upon how many questions everybody has around the campaign, around the issues. So that's what's going to happen this evening. And I'm going to turn it back to Amaruk, who's going to give you some background on why the protections that the wolves currently enjoy matter to their survival.
Thanks, Quentin. So I'm going to give you some background, kind of history of how we got to this point today, because many people don't know how we got to this point and why we have to do something about it. And a lot of you on this call already know that wolves once ranged across the entire Northern Hemisphere. And in fact, when Europeans landed on these shores, there were an estimated 2 million wolves across all of North America, from the Arctic all the way down to Baja, Mexico. But when Europeans arrived and started moving westward, they basically cleared the land for their grain and their cattle, and they cleared the land of the native prey and the predators to make room for their own livestock. And then these efforts of getting rid of prey species and other animals, I mean, they wiped out deer, elk, bison. There's places in this country that the only reason we have elk back is we reintroduced them, just like we have with wolves in a few areas. But these efforts by settlers, plus a federal government-sponsored predator eradication program that started in the 1900s, resulted in the near extinction of wolves throughout most of the lower 48. And so by the 1970s, when the Federal Endangered Species Act was passed, the only place that we still had wolves in the lower 48 United States was in far northeastern Minnesota. With the protections that came under the Federal Endangered Species Act, that put a stop to the rampant killing of those wolves that were in northern Minnesota. It allowed their population to expand out into portions of Michigan and Wisconsin. And then there were wolf reintroduction programs that took place in the northern Rockies and the Southwest. And wolves are just starting to make a comeback and get a toehold in the West Coast. But overall, wolves in the lower 48 still only occupy less than 10% of their former habitat and in less than 1% of their former numbers. And there's a lot of places that wolves have not yet recovered, including the Southern Rockies, the Adirondacks, and also more of the Southwest, and even more of the West Coast we could see more wolf recovery. And the fact is that the threats to wolves remain high. The opposition from the livestock industry, from the sports hunting industry, from politicians, these all lead to efforts to kill wolves, to kill more wolves, and to reduce the populations in those places where federal protections have already been removed. So for instance, anytime that the federal government has already removed protections for wolves in a certain area, what we see immediately is the state will institute very aggressive hunting and trapping seasons, which are designed to reduce their wolf populations to bare minimums. So we already know how things would play out for wolves if federal protections were removed in a lot more places. And right now, the Trump administration is proposing to do just that. They're working on a proposal to delist wolves from the Federal Endangered Species Act across almost the entire lower 48 United States. And this decision to take protections away from wolves, this has nothing to do with science. This is simply a political decision. And what it would do is it would reverse decades of progress. It would allow wolves to be shot on sight, trapped, hunted, killed in trophy hunts, poisoned. So what's the solution? Well, the federal government has tried to strip wolves of protections previously. And each time when that delisting could be challenged in court, the courts reversed the delisting. The courts agreed with us. Wolves are not recovered. The science says they're not recovered. The laws in place are meant to protect an animal until they have fully recovered. So this fight has actually been going on for decades. Fish and Wildlife Service has made repeated attempts to try to strip wolves of protection since the early 2000s. And so one thing is clear. When we fight, we win. What we can't do is not fight. And so that's why we need you. Our legal team is going to be working really hard in the courts, but in the meantime, what we need your help for is to build the people power and show overwhelming public support for wolves. Because every time they've tried to delist, the public support for wolves continues to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's because of people like you who spread the word to your friends and families and communities as to why wolves are worth fighting for. So we need your help. And with that, I guess it's back to Valerie.
Right. So what is our plan to fight and win? As Amarouk said, the government is working on getting this proposal out to strip Endangered Species Act protections from gray wolves from coast to coast, and it could come out any day now. It's kind of anyone's guess of exactly when it will come down. Originally, Fish and Wildlife was trying to get it out by the end of 2018. Then the government shut down and it was postponed. But now that the government's open, it really could come down any day, or it could have gotten a backlog and it could be weeks or months from now. But we want to organize proactively so that we are ready and we're strong, and we built this amazing grassroots network and already started to gather comments against this horrific proposal. So we are getting out ahead of their timeline and starting to organize. So I'm going to share with you in a second our organizing timeline and where we've been and where we're going next. So here I'm going to share my screen. So what we've already done, we've actually hosted several calls just like this of earlier last month, and we've had over 500 people, actually over 600 participate in a call just like this. We've then done a leader of the pack training for folks who wanted to get more organizing skills. 250 people have gone through that. We've sent out over 300 packets to people who were already ready to get out in their community and start collecting comments against this proposal and educating folks in their community. So we've seen an overwhelming positive response. It's really exciting, but there's so much to come, and this is a perfect place to jump in. So what's next? So you can see we've been doing comment gathering. We've started that process, but of course, we're going to kick that into high gear as we get closer to this proposal coming down. Today, February 5th, this is the call you're on right now. But what's coming up after this, so you can see February 14th, we have a digital day of action. So we will be sharing memes, Valentine's Day themed memes with you, so you can share on social media and invite people to join the campaign. But what we're really going to focus on tonight, and I'm going to pass it to Quentin in just a couple minutes to talk more about this, is our Wild for Wolves Day on March 5th. And this is where we are planning to organize events across the country to educate people and to have them fill out comments and get organizing to protect wolves. So he's going to tell you more about that. But I just wanted you to see there is a longer timeline after that. We're planning on lobbying for wolves and supporting folks in taking that next step. Whenever the proposal drops, this is kind of our proactive timeline. Excuse me. I'm going to stop my share for a second. So that's kind of what we already have planned. But when the proposal drops, of course, that's going to shift things, and we're going to kick our efforts into high gear. We're going to collect comments online and in person and just go all hands on deck on that. There will be public hearings, so we'll be organizing protests and rallies and having people flood those public hearings with voicing our support for wolves and our opposition to this plan. And then we'll do a big comment delivery at the end. So all the comments that you'll gather and that have been gathered, we're going to batch them up and deliver them all at once in a big show to Fish and Wildlife at the end. So those are just some things to know are coming and know are part of a larger plan. But right now we're really going to focus on the Wild for Wolves Day and what it'll take to be part of that. So I'm going to pass it to Quentin to share more.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. You know, as Valerie points out for this campaign, you know, the core part of all of the activities that are going to help us protect wolves come down to your involvement. And we're really excited about our March 5th Wild for Wolves Day. As many of you know, wolves teach us so much about community. They teach us about how to take care of each other. And one of the interesting things that we thought about in organizing around this Wild for Wolves Day was really based on, something that we learned from wolves, which is when a wolf pack goes out hunting, generally they assign one adult member of the pack to stay with the pups behind. These wolves are, not surprisingly, known as babysitter wolves, and they care for the pups until the rest of the pack returns to unite them. And as I mentioned, this is an example of how wolves take care of each other, and one of the bases for this campaign. The goal of our Wild for Wolves Day is to not only build community amongst our wolf activists, but also strengthen connections between all of you across the country. As we saw from the initial chat, you are located all over the country right now. We want to connect you for this event and also help you get organized for what we imagine to be, unfortunately, a long continuing political battle to protect them. And we want to make sure that you have not only the tools, but also the connections with people in real life, because we know, and wolves continually show us, that we are stronger when we act together in community. So for our Wild for Wolves Day, we will help identify wolf activists in your area. We'll help connect you with them. We'll provide you a guide. We'll send you materials, and our staff will support you every step of the way. Everything except host the event. It's up to you. And what this event actually is you pick a time and a place on March 5th. You put that on our, what we call our Ignite Change map, and we will share that link with you. And then we will help get people together to join you in that event. And one of the goals, as Valerie pointed out, for this period that we're in right now, or phase of the campaign, is to gather and collect as many comment cards to oppose the delisting of wolves as possible. So what we're hoping to do is have, hopefully at least 100 events, if not more, across the country, where we are talking with fellow wolf activists, educating new wolf activists, and gathering as many comment cards as possible so we can show strength to the Trump administration, so that when they're even considering the idea of delisting wolves, they know that they're going to be in for a very long fight to help these protections. So that's our Wild for Wolves Day. And the main part of this, as I mentioned, is up to you. So this is your chance tonight to take your step forward into taking action for wolves. And so we're going to launch a poll right now. It's going to pop up on your screen. And this is your chance to let us know affirmatively that you would be willing to host a Wild for Wolves rendezvous on March 5th. And to be very clear, when we say host this event, this can be very simple. This could be meeting at a cafe, at a bar, at your house. You could organize it with your neighbors. It's just a chance for you to connect in real life with your fellow wolf lovers, and then to decide amongst yourselves how you want to connect, take action, and potentially even form a local group where you can help facilitate this conversation on a continuing basis. Because, one of the things that we know is this is just going to be the first step of many to protect wolves. So take a moment. You should be seeing the poll up on your screen right now. Please place your vote. I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. And this is, we will follow up for those of you that are able to host an event on March 5th. We will follow up with you on this call. And it's an exciting chance, and we're excited about Wild for Wolves Day on March 5th. Thanks for all of you for taking that poll, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Diane, who will lead you through the specific next steps.
Thanks, Quentin. All right, so this is what you can expect next. First, we will send you an email tomorrow with a link to all the resources that you'll need to plan this event, including a step-by-step guide. You'll also receive a text from a staff member who can help answer any questions that you have as you're planning your event. I'll actually be the main contact for many of you, but you also may hear from campaigners in your state. So basically, once you see the guide and you read through it, the next thing you're going to want to do is put your event on the Ignite Change map. And I think we can share that now, Valerie. All right, awesome. So this is the screen that you're going to be looking at, and we'll send the link and everything for you. But you can press that Host an Event button in the right upper right-hand corner to submit your event. And basically what that does is allow us to recruit other Ignite Change members in your area to attend your event. So you'll get to meet all of the other wolf activists near you. And make sure to put that on the map as soon as possible. The deadline is going to be February 15th, because once you add it to the map, we will mail you materials, and we want to make sure to get those to you before the 5th. All right, so also there are 2 more calls coming up to help you get ready for the Wild for Wolves Day on March 5th. The first one is going to be on February 20th, and it'll be the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we're going to do a deep dive into the wolf issue with Amaruk. So that's February 20th. The second is going to be a host prep call. So that is mostly for folks who have an event on the map at that point. So we can go through some final steps in planning for your events and make sure you are all supported. That will be on February 26th. And again, same time. These dates will be in the follow-up email, so no worries if you were not able to write those down now. So before I pass it back to Valerie, I just want to say that even if you have never done anything like this, never organized an event like this before, I really encourage you to give it a try now. You'll be very well supported every step of the way by our staff. We have a step-by-step guide. You'll have everything you need. And if you've ever considered stepping out of your comfort zone and being courageous, like we talked about earlier, to protect this incredible species that we all love so much, now is definitely the time to do it. So I look forward to working with all of you. And with that, I'll pass it over to Valerie for the Q&A.
All right. So again, as a reminder, on the bottom of your screen is the little Q&A button. That's where I'm going to be pulling most of the questions from. So if you have a question, please press that and type your question in now. And I will start with the ones that are in here. Okay, so one question is, why have Wild for Wolves Day on a weekday when many of us are working? So I want to address this head on because I don't want this to be an obstacle. We have done it before. Many people like to organize like a happy hour event, maybe right after work. And that tends to work for folks. I actually, funny enough, I've like research like which day of the week is best for people, and Tuesday happens to have the best rate, so that's why it's a Tuesday. But if you think, hey, first of all, I'm working, it's too stressful, or for my community or for the people I know, I think a weekend would work better, or a different day of the week, you are free to choose another day within the same week. So it's fun to take action like all at the same day at the same time, but we don't want it to be prohibitive. So you can pick a day anytime from Tuesday to that Sunday that works for you and host your event then. Okay, and what kind of event is it exactly? So maybe Quentin or Diane, I don't know if you want to spell out a little clearer, what are we asking people to do exactly?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So basically, this is like a social gathering where you will talk about wolves, go over the issue, and have fun with your community and your friends. Everyone will learn about what's happening with wolves, and you will also take action and write letters to Trump opposing the delisting. So it's a little bit of fun social time and also some real concrete action.
Nice. All right. And along the same lines, what are some good examples of places to have the events at? Take that one.
Great question. So it really depends on your community, but we've had them at coffee shops, or if you have like a church gathering space. A lot of times breweries will have a room, or a restaurant will have a gathering space. If you can think of places like that in your community to reach out to and ask them. And if those don't work for you, don't worry, I'll chat with you tomorrow and in the coming days and we can figure something out.
Nice. All right. I'm kind of going to take questions grouped by themes that are related. So let's just stick on the kind of these events, logistical considerations first. So one is, can I host an event at my school? And I would say yes. I would say totally. Involving folks at your school and your class is a great idea. Involving clubs, maybe. I don't know what the best form is, but absolutely engaging students in school is a really great way to spread the word. Okay, will there be a video stream as part of the event? And the answer is no. Currently, we're not planning on that. So we will give you content that includes like, here's a sample script so that you can give a rundown. In the past, we have done videos, but it does complicate the logistics a lot. It means you need to, there's just a lot of more tech considerations and logistical considerations that make it a little more difficult to host the event. So it works just as well. We've done it without, and it's really simple and powerful just to have people connect. And we give you all the materials and information so that you can be a great messenger for the content. Okay, let's take a different kind of question now. So, there's two that are related. So one person is asking, what is the reason given by the president for delisting wolves, or by this administration? Other is that's related to it, but a different category of politicians, is just how do you address the ignorance of some elected officials? For example, Governor Brown of Oregon seems to believe that wolves have not existed in Oregon's landscape for hundreds of years. And, she sent a note to her. Yes. But the point is, why are elected officials ignorant on this issue? And what is their reason for delisting?
Yep. So those same forces that wiped out wolves to begin with, they still exist. The livestock industry still has incredible political power. The sports hunting industry still has incredible political power. You might not know this, but in Congress, there's a sportsman's caucus of congressional representatives and senators who go hunting and trapping and fishing together, and they're proud of that heritage, and that is a part of American heritage in other places as well. But we need a congressional caucus of of senators and representatives who like their wildlife alive and want them to be able to go back to their home places where they used to live. So there's tremendous political pressure coming from the livestock industry, the sports hunting industry, who does not want wolves. They don't understand the science for some reason. Science is rampant. The science is constantly emerging about how important wolves are to ecosystems, and that, yes, they did used to range everywhere. And it's important to have wolves because they keep ecosystems healthy. The places that wild ungulate populations, elk and deer, are having chronic wasting disease. If we had wolves back there, the chronic wasting disease incident would drop way down. In fact, in Wisconsin, in parts of the state where they do have wolves, they don't have chronic wasting disease. In the parts of the state where they don't have wolves is where you see that in the herds. Chronic wasting disease, by the way, it's like mad cow disease, but it occurs in deer and elk, and that makes deer and elk meat really inedible for people if they're hunting them. It's a dangerous disease, both for the animal and for humans. So folks don't understand the science. They don't understand. Often they don't even listen to their own state wildlife agencies. So for instance, in the Northern Rockies, the state wildlife agencies there are reporting that in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, all of the elk management units, nearly all the elk management units throughout their states, are at or above objective level. In Montana, they're 30% above objective level throughout the state. All of the state agencies are reporting that they're having all-time hunter-harvest success rates. These are facts coming out of their own states, and yet folks don't want to listen to facts. It's really important that all of us that care about wolves compile this information and make sure we're repeating it often, loudly, to the right audience. If you see a newspaper article about wolves and it's spouting incorrect information, that's your cue to write a letter to the editor and say, hey, thanks so much for writing about wolves. However, I want to point out a few facts that come directly from the state you're writing about. People will read your letter to the editor. You can be making visits to your own state legislators. You talk about Governor Brown. A number of us are going to be meeting with her next week. She's very interested in salvaging her reputation as an environmental leader. And so maybe she's an environmental leader on some issues, but certainly not on wolves. And we're hoping to turn that boat around. So for those of you that have been writing your governors, do not give up. Keep writing them. Call their natural resources policy advisors. Find out who is your elected official in your district, in your state legislature, and send them the information, because education is really key to overcome some of these misconceptions about wolves.
Nice.
Yeah.
This may be related as well, but someone says, I believe that California, as of this week, has voted to protect wolves in opposition to Trump's plan. Maybe Amaruk, you can talk a little bit more or clarify what that win was this week, and we are having wins along the way. But this person also wants to know, just what can we do here in other states besides calling or writing?
Yeah, so actually, almost every single state has their own State Endangered Species Act, separate from the Federal Endangered Species Act, and they're all a little varied in what they offer. California actually has one of the most protective State Endangered Species Act in the country. It's even slightly more protective than the Federal Endangered Species Act. And when wolves first started coming into California in late 2011, 2 months later, we filed an administrative petition with the state to get the wolf listed under the California State ESA. And it took about 2 years of different processes and hearings, but the State Fish and Game Commission in 2014 voted to protect wolves under the State Endangered Species Act. But then the livestock industry in 2017, when the listing all became final through an administrative process, the livestock industry filed a suit against the state for the listing. And we joined in that lawsuit to help the state defend against it. So the decision that you just read about this week, that was the court ruling in favor of the commission's decision back in 2014 to protect wolves. So we had a judge who read the science, who read the facts, who read the legal briefs and understood the arguments and realized that the arguments that were being made to challenge the listing were wrong. So But one of the reasons it's really important that we got that victory is that if Trump's proposal to strip wolves of protections across the lower 48 goes through, California is one of the states that would lose those protections. So it's essential that we've got state level protections in the interim while we would then be fighting in court to reverse any delisting. And I think somebody else earlier had asked, what is the reason for doing this? And again, I'm just going to go back to make sure everybody understands. Time and time again, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service under Trump is no different than in the past in terms of being subject to political pressure. They always say it's due to the science. They always say wolves are recovered. And every time that they've tried to strip wolves of protections and we fought them in court, the court overturned that and said, no, wolves are not yet recovered. You're wrong. You're not following the science. You're not following the law. So we keep fighting and we will keep fighting.
Yes, we will. All right, a couple more questions here. So will cards or petitions be supplied? Yes, so we have, mine is all written on with notes here, but like they are, yeah, crazy notes. Anyway, these are comment letters that you will receive a packet of. So when you hold your event, you will have blank comment letters for people to fill out their information and write a personal note. Really important for people to personalize it. It counts differently, or it actually counts when people write in their own message. So we definitely will supply that. So that will be a next step. After you put your event on the map, that's our signal that, hey, this person's serious. They're organizing an event, and we will mail you a packet of materials. Please do make sure to get your event on the map as soon as possible. And actually, end of next week, February 15th, is the deadline for that, so that we have time to mail you those materials. If you don't get it on the map by then, we can provide you materials to print on your own. But it's just so much easier if you put it on the map, and we'll mail it to you, and you'll have everything that you need. So, okay, a couple regional questions here. One is on the state of Colorado. So how do we find out if wolves are protected in the Colorado State Endangered Species Act? Maybe a little more on Colorado's position in this and stake in this thing, perhaps.
Yeah, so one way you could find out is by going through the statute books and see whether or not they have an Endangered Species Act and whether or not wolves are listed there. But I think more easily is that we're going to be able to put together a map for you that describes what the status is of wolves in various states and whether or not they've got a state ESA, because I suspect folks other from those in Colorado would want to know as well. But one of the things you might already know living in Colorado is that there is a Rocky Mountain Wolf Recovery Project in place right now. And we and other organizations are involved with that, along with the Ted Turner Endangered Species Fund, to see if we can get an effort off the ground to actually reintroduce wolves to Colorado. There is wonderful wolf habitat for wolves in Colorado, and they have an enormous elk population. So there's plenty of wild prey for wolves there as well. And I think that as we move forward in this with our partners in this campaign, you will probably be hearing a little bit more about the Rocky Mountain Wolf Recovery Project. So, and as I said, we hope to get a map up pretty soon that'll let folks know in various states what is the legal status of wolves in their state. I will tell you that most states that do have a State Endangered Species Act don't have wolves listed. Illinois, just about a year and a half ago, finally woke up, realized they were having wolves starting to come down there in the Great Lakes region. And bravo to the state of Illinois. They added wolves to their state list as well.
All right. So someone wants to know, how are you addressing where wolves go outside the national park like Yellowstone and now are allowed to be shot? Do you want to address that, Amaru?
Sure. We've been involved with discussions with various legislators in Montana, and currently legislator Representative Mike Phillips has introduced a bill to create a buffer zone outside of the park. In past years in Montana, they actually had a law in place that prohibited creation of a buffer outside of the park, and that the best that Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks was able to do was reduce the quotas for wolf hunting in the areas that were just adjacent and immediately north of the park. But obviously that hasn't solved the problem. You know, wolves, bears, wildlife, they don't know these invisible boundaries that we set up for them. And as many of you already know, if you've been to Yellowstone, a lot of these animals are used to having people on the side of the road watching them with binoculars and scopes. And so if they see somebody outside of the park with a hunting scope, they aren't going to know that that person is a threat. So they're particularly vulnerable. But so we are supporting those efforts in Montana to hopefully get legislation passed that will establish this buffer. It's really critical there.
Nice. So we have one person that just wanted to let folks know about something going on in our Slack channel. So I'm going to first explain what that is and then let you know their announcement about it. It is awesome that someone brought this up. So we have a Slack channel. Slack is like an online chat tool. It's really basically as simple to use as this chat you've been using in Zoom is. But it is it's a chat space specific to this group and our wolf campaign. So it's a great place to continue the conversation. You can ask questions there. So for example, questions that we don't get to in this short hour together. You can ask questions, you can share articles, you can just connect with fellow wolf activists. So we will be sending an invite in the coming days. I think we're planning on sending it a few days after this call tonight. So please look for it at Join Our Online Wolf. And someone was just saying, like, for example, one of the things you might find out is there are some regional channels or chat spaces within that. And, there's one for Colorado. And folks are talking about connecting around advocating for reintroduction in Colorado. Rocky Mountain Wolf Project is one of the organizations on the ground helping lead that effort. We're a part of that coalition. So that's just kind of a plug on going from here, how you can continue to connect with folks across the country and in your area. So please do keep an eye out to look to join Slack when you see that in our online wolf community. And thanks for the person who wrote about that. So next, let's see, how about who are our allies in the Senate and the House, and how can we make headway by reaching out to our elected officials, both those who support delisting as well as those who should support, as well as those who should support it.
So I think we're probably going to get a list up of who are our allies in Congress, because there's a number of them to be named. There's some new people in Congress that I don't think we even compiled our whole new list yet. I mean, fortunately, yay, we have a whole lot of new members in Congress. Probably the best news is the Natural Resources Committee being chaired by Raul Grijalva, who has been a long-time champion for wolves. And so we're thrilled to have him chairing that. Many of the congressionals on the West Coast, Maria Cantwell, Patty Murray, have been great. Also, some of the congressionals from Oregon have been great as well. We have some kind of overlap there with considering Democratic governors. So there's a whole new slate of Democratic governors that have taken office, some of whom are familiar with the wolf issue, some of whom are not yet. You know, somebody's just mentioning on the chat room that Klobuchar is bad. So yeah, Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota, unfortunately, has not been good on the wolf issue at all. She has supported past attempts by Congress to delist wolves congressionally. And so a lot more work is needed on her. But so as I was saying with the governors, we're also going to be making some effort as part of this campaign to hook you up with who are the governors that you need to be contacting, because some of them will need to be educated from scratch. Some of them already are aware of the issue, but they need to know how important it is to their constituents. So rather than just kind of list off a bunch of names right now, I think we'll get that compiled as a resource fact sheet for you. that we can make available on Slack. I think we can do that, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Our DC expert is actually out right now, so it may not be immediate, but that is something we want to compile and share out, so stay tuned. Okay, let's actually, I think we're going to head towards closing up. There were a number of other great questions, so I really encourage you. One way that you can get in touch with us directly is by emailing ignite@biologicaldiversity.org. Again, ignite@biologicaldiversity.org. And then the other way is to join Slack. And that way you don't just connect with us, but you connect with all the other folks involved in this campaign. So my apologies for not getting to all the great questions and all the enthusiasm. It's really exciting to see. But we will start to close up. So I'm going to pass it to Quentin for a few final words.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. And thanks everyone for just these calls. I know I can speak for Valerie and the rest of us on these calls. They're super energizing. It's really amazing to connect with everybody, connect with your enthusiasm, and it really gives me hope that we're going to be successful in protecting wolves. And you know, this is your chance. All that enthusiasm, we really want to channel it into action. And each of these calls, one of the things that Valerie puts in my list of things to do is she has parentheses and it says, insert sort of inspiring quote. So my job is to, oh my God, I've got to find something inspiring to say to everybody. But you guys are the source, truthfully, of a lot of inspiration tonight with your passion and your questions and involvement so far. But I thought of the famous quote that many of you are familiar with from Margaret Mead when she said that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So this is our chance to get involved. We had over 160, 170 people on tonight's call. And as Valerie has said, over the course of several webinars, we've had over 600 to 700 people involved in this campaign. So it's a very exciting opportunity. What we need you to do is take that next step. Without you, this campaign will not be successful. And so tomorrow, you will be getting an email from us with all of the information you need to get started. So please, when you leave this call tonight, tomorrow morning, check your email and also go to saveourwolves.org. That is the center for all of this campaign and all the information you're going to need. So check your email, share Save Our Wolves with your friends on social, with your neighbors. And as Diane pointed out, take that step into a new, if you're not comfortable with this, you're trying to learn new tech skills, this is your chance. We're here to help you be successful in this campaign. And most importantly, your success means success for the wolves. So this is the two things that we want to really connect. Reach out. We're here to help you, especially for the March 5th Wild for Wolves Day. So check your email, be in touch, and I'm going to turn it over to our beloved Amarouk, who's going to lead us on our traditional end of these webinar wolf calls.
So this is our chance to say good evening to all of you as a pack, and you to say good evening to each other. And if you were in a real wolf pack right now, you'd be wagging your tails and looking at each other. And but since we're not quite wolves ourselves, the best way to do our wolf howl is to cup your hands over your mouth. And on 1, 2, 3, let's all howl together. And sometimes we find everybody else's dogs that are listening howl back. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
You can also go to saveourwolves.org if you want to see all the resources that we're going to send you early. We'll send them tomorrow. But y'all are so awesome. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.